What's up, guys? JP bringing you the movement today. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. Probably a little bit cold outside, but just think about it. It's good for the inflammation. People pay good money to get in those hydro tanks and stuff. So you just enjoy this cold weather and think about the inflammation that's flowing out of your knuckles,
right,
back, knees,
various other places,
whatever it may be.
For some of you, that may be a bad day to lose your inflammation.
Yeah, I saw, man. Oh, dude, this is great. So we're driving through the neighborhood, and me being just me, there's a truck sitting over there, and I could have swore I saw paint on the side of this truck. It was some kind of work truck, and and I said, "Oh my God, look, Dina, it's a gout truck. They got a gout truck. You know, remove your pain and all this stuff and everything." And Dina was like, "Josh, you dumbass! It says grout truck." And then I started looking at it, and it was like,
that makes more sense.
Clean, you know, reestablish it. I'm like, how did I get gout out of that? Like,
because typically the way you get rid of gout is to have a truck come out.
Right. Well, I don't know. I figured people that had gout, they probably didn't want to travel anywhere. They didn't want to get out of the house because they're hurting.
So they sent over a moving van.
Yeah, so they sent over a truck with a camper on the back of it.
Makes sense.
A hard shell just in case.
You're looking to come up with good business ideas. Don't talk to JP.
Don't talk to JP. JP's got horrible marketing ideas. Oh, speaking of marketing, we are on YouTube.
Go there now.
Go there now. Subscribe and alarm. But no, seriously, we really appreciate everybody listening in here. To be honest with you, man, we couldn't do what we do without you guys. No, to be honest with you, we could. It'd just be really boring. We wouldn't have any listeners.
And you'd miss out.
And you would miss out on some great content. So, no, but for real, we really do appreciate you guys listening in. Show us some love, man. Do us a favor. Go leave a review on Apple Podcast. Let us know what you think. Good, bad, indifferent. If it's bad, we'll delete it. If it's good, we'll push it to the top. So
preach, brother, preach.
No, but real shit. We're really happy that you guys are joining with us today, and we're going to talk about some stuff that I think a lot of people need to hear. To be honest, we're going to talk about your inner circle. And if you're anything like us, I think there's probably a point in time in your life where you probably didn't have the best circle, probably didn't have the best people around you. And that transition is not easy. It's never easy, and it's kind of lonely. Not to be sappy or anything like that, but it's kind of lonely. So, guys, obviously, I am always blessed to be sitting here with two of my best friends in the entire world, Cam, and Wilson.
What's going on?
They're gonna bring the heat. They're gonna bring some perspective. I know we talked about perspective in the previous episode that you listened to last week. I would suggest you go listen to it again because it's extremely important on YouTube
or any of the other or Apple Podcasts where you can leave a review, and if it's a good one, we'll shove it to the top.
We'll shove it to the top. Yeah. Damn right we will.
Yeah. Why? Because we have integrity.
Yeah. And speaking of integrity, if you want integrity, you should wear some of our new swag.
Wow,
that'll be coming out here soon. No, but it's gonna be awesome. We do have some really good things going on there. You want to create a good a solid circle of influence and stuff like that. Wear some pretty solid swag, and then good people will be attracted to you. So with that, I really early on, I want to get a perspective. I want some people to hear your stories, because I know that, and just knowing you guys, I know that you guys didn't necessarily come from. When you're younger, you don't pick the best influences in your life and stuff like that. You tend to pick, that short, immediate gratification of, oh, they're fun to hang out with because, whatever it may be, whatever the vice may be with it. So, honestly, I'd like to just kind of hear your story a little bit. Like, what was the transition? Because what I want to hear is when you were younger, what did your association look like? You transitioned. Obviously, you guys have surrounded yourselves by successful people that know what they're talking about, that challenge you in life, which is not necessarily a comfortable situation all the time. And you don't necessarily hear what you want to hear all the time. But what did that transition look like? So what was it first? What did the transition look like? And why did you make the transition? What was that aha moment?
Okay, so I won't tell my whole life story here, but just to kind of give some context for me, as I was coming up through school, like specifically high school, let's say, I was a little bit unique for the area I was in, because I was in a small town, but previous to that, I had lived in some larger areas, and just had, to go back to our previous episode, I had more perspective than a lot of the people I was in school with. A lot of the people I was in school with were, from a small town. Their parents were from that same town. Their grandparents were from that same town. Great people, but they just knew what they knew. from their perspective. I had seen a little bit more, not a great bit, but I'd lived in 3 or 4 different states at that point, and so our foundations were the same, but I had my vision was a little bit different. And I also was very, I wasn't really pigeonholed. I hear a lot of people like through high school, they get in cliques, like the jocks or the nerds or the goths or whatever they are now. Like now there's these ones Furbies that wear cat things to school, and it's just weird as shit to me.
They have tails, right?
I don't know what all they have, but there's some weird stuff going on. Anyway, I don't know what it's about. Maybe I don't understand it. Maybe I should gain some perspective.
So my wife's friend's a teacher. Yeah, he had to legitimately chase a kid down the hallway and stuff. And he finally caught up with the kid, and he's like, "Dude, why are you running from me?" And he was like, "'Cause I'm a cat." Oh, he asked me. He said, "What do you say to that?"
I don't even know.
He's a little kid. Or was he?
You hit the reset button. I don't know what you do. I mean,
start
maybe
over.
Unplug it.
No
That's
idea.
the IT, right? You just unplug it, start it over, and put it back in. How's that work?
I think I want to talk to your parents.
Master reset. Yeah.
See what's wrong with them. So, anyways, but in that environment, I never really. I would hang out with everybody, like the rednecks, the jocks, the nerds. I was good in school. I wasn't focused on school a lot, but I was blessed to be very good at it. So I had connections with the nerdy people. I was decent in sports, and it was a small school, so I got to play a lot of them. So I had connections there. I liked music, and I ended up being in a band and playing the drums, so I had connections there. So it was like I didn't have a clique. Which I thought was a blessing, I really enjoyed it. And sometimes, when you're young and mature, people would get not offended, but they get mad because you like everybody, which is stupid.
You can only have one.
I know you can only like one kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
only one.
You gotta
only
be
one
very,
friend.
very pigeonholed and not diverse at all. But which is why they all have jobs and we have multiple businesses.
Hey man.
But as I grew and I went into college, then it became, more so. And JP said something about picking friends. I don't even know if I picked them. I think it was the lazy way of association was just they all hung out at the same bars I did, or they were in my class or whatever, and so we got to know each other. And I'm going to be real transparent on this episode. And some of y'all know some of my stories, some of you don't. But I went down, I started partying pretty hard in college. I started with alcohol, then moved into smoking pot, and then. As I was getting towards the end of college, moved into ecstasy, cocaine, experimented with a lot of mushrooms, all that kind of stuff. And it's not something I'm proud of. It's not necessarily something I'm not proud of. It's part of my story. It's part of my life. It is what it is. I made some really stupid decisions. I personally believe God protected me in a lot of areas because he had a bigger plan in store. And I look back now and I'm just like, whew, geez, I don't know how I got out of that one. And then as I moved, and I got into the restaurant industry. And if anybody's ever worked in that industry, it is not conducive to Bible studies. It really just fuels the fire of partying. And I did, to a really high level or low level, however you want to look at that. And I went pretty hard. Now I was still doing well in school, and I was still, I was running restaurants before I ever graduated. I still had a mindset of success, and I still wanted to do those kinds of things. But the people I hung out with, I know limited me because
you went hard no matter what direction it was.
Every direction, wide open, every direction. And so I would work my tail off and accomplish what I need to accomplish. I would work hard, and then I would party my brains out. As I graduated, I was still doing the same thing because I was running restaurants. Moved to Memphis, just kept partying more and more and more, and it got to a point where it was just like, okay, this is a lifestyle that you're going to either have to decide. Do you want to keep going this road and you're always going to be average, or you're eventually going to be below, or you got to change something? It became very apparent to me to get to the point that I had to change my association. Absolutely 100% had to. Now,
why?
Because it's real easy. It's easier to fall back into things when you have influences that are constantly telling you, let's just go do this, or let's just do whatever. When you, maybe as I tell the story, it'll help answer that question a little bit. So by the grace of God, I had a friend of mine that I went to college with that introduced me to a couple of business owners. And they were very intriguing. They were doing some really great things in the e-commerce space, and I was, again, I was still wide open on wanting to be successful. I just also wanted to party till the sun came up, and even if I didn't want to, I was gonna. It became a habit, and it was a habit because all the people I hung out with did it, So I smoked, I drank, I did drugs, I was very promiscuous, all these different kinds of things. And some people think, oh, that's cool. Not really. I mean, it leaves a lot of emptiness in you. It really does. And through meeting these guys that happen to live a totally different lifestyle, I mean, like 180 degrees different lifestyle, and I saw the fruit they had on the tree of their life, and I was like, man, that's what I really want. That is some stuff that will actually fill this void that I have, that I'm trying to fill with all this other nonsense, and through hanging out with them periodically over about a year and a half, maybe even up to 2 years, it just became very apparent that the only way that I'm ever going to truly get to where I want to go is I have to not only do these good things over here, but I also have to remove this association. That's the only way I'm going to stop doing dumb shit. And so I literally ripped the Band-Aid off cold turkey. And we were talking about this before we started recording, how there can be a loneliness in there and how it's hard for people to change their association because it's all you know. These are the people that you love, you think you love, and that you hang out with all the time. And, I still have some great friendships from that time. I went a few years without associating with any of them at all because I had to. I had to change completely. I had to run my life. But I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I stopped doing drugs. I stopped associating those people literally overnight. I just did it. For about 2 years, I didn't touch, maybe even 3. I didn't touch beer, nothing, because I just needed to make sure that I had that under control. It wasn't like something I was addicted to, and it wasn't. I was just addicted to the habit of it. And then when it came down to the people, I probably went, I don't know, some of them 5, 6, 7 years of people I used to see on a weekly basis I just didn't talk to or see at all. And it was not easy. Some of it was family, a lot of it was friends. It was not easy. But then in that process, I also started gaining a positive association of other people that I saw, okay, this guy's got fruit on the tree that I want, and he knows this guy or these people, and they could connect the dots to folks that I wanted to associate with. So it wasn't just removing the bad, it was also bringing in the good. And it made all the difference in the world. Not to take up all the time here, but JP talked about that loneliness period, though. That is the part, and I'll associate it to like trying to quit smoking. It is. That's the hard part. It's not always the hard part to say, I'm going to quit. That's tough. But it's when you have quit for a while, and then you think you're good, and then you go back. I went through that 2 or 3 times. I smoked for like 15 years. And then the last time I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm just not doing it. And I had to come up with triggers and ways to do it. Like I would count the days, and I'm just competitive enough to where I'd be like, I've been 100 days. I'm not wasting 100 days. Like that was literally the way I quit, is I just competed against myself. But the same thing with people is like, you have to, like the hardest part is, man, I'm sitting at home by myself another night. And I'm, at that particular time of my life, I was broke too. Like everything about it sucked. But I had to just go back and remind myself why I did it. And not only why I did it because this sucked, but why I was doing it to move forward into that other association. And I think the people that can go through that time frame and get over that hump, then it's just a matter of moving up a different scale or a different graph. And it's been all the difference in the world. And then now it's brought these relationships about with you guys. And now we're doing things that are going to change the world because we were willing to sacrifice some things that were holding us back that were just fun.
Well, I appreciate the transparency. It's not easy to do. And to be honest with you, if most of us were honest and wore our true past on our chest, a lot of people would be really surprised. A lot of people live behind this fake facade of who they are, and that their past has been whatever. And I don't care if you're a preacher's son or whatever it is. Everybody has a past. And the reason that you're so successful is because you're able to look at it and go, I beat it.
It's an asset now.
Yep, absolutely. And there's a pain that we talked about this in the discipline side, right? There's the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, and you chose discipline in that, and that's what it took, right? I mean, it took you going, you know what, and you're just stubborn enough to have the right association around you to go. It didn't matter what you were involved in, you would have been done with it. I mean, just because you're stubborn enough to do that. So I appreciate you sharing that for sure, man, because there's people out there I believe right now that I know that are sitting in the early part of your life. And they might, and age doesn't matter. Age does not discriminate in there. You might be 18 years old in that area, which is probably more common. But there's people out there that are 35, 40 years old that think that, that's just it's just who I am or whatever it is. And that's not the case. I mean, you can always change that stuff. So I appreciate you sharing that, because that's impactful, man. And that's really the transition that I was wanting to get at, because I think a lot of people get to that point where you talked about the loneliness and they relapse because they're like, oh, like I don't have any friends, because they're still trying to develop the good relationships that are not quite cultivated yet, and they haven't quite got far enough away from the bad ones and stuff. So that's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. So Wilson, what?
Okay.
I know yours was super severe, right? So I grew up in a big house, and I was,
I'm like, I should have probably went first on this one. And Cam, man, just as a testimony to you, when I first met you, man, I thought you were cool as shit first, but then after getting to know you, I would have never known you had that bad of a background, if you want to call it that. I mean, I think it's just a growing phase, if you will. Me personally, man, I was a born again Christian young and kind of stayed in that. But I did play the pretender a lot. That's probably my biggest thing, is coming through church. I believed in everything, but whenever the pastor would say don't drink, I wasn't one that didn't do that. I went and drank. So my mom introduced alcohol to me when I was 14 on a vacation. Not to throw her under the bus or anything. It's just she came from her background. If talking about perspective last week, her background and her family was raised Catholic. Everybody who knows a Catholic knows that they like to drink. So that was just kind of a custom. I mean, heck, if I was old enough, if I was probably 12, I bet she probably would if I asked hard enough. But it just wasn't, we were in her environment. We were with her, so it was all safe. Everything was fine. But it kind of stuck with me. I like to drink. I still kind of enjoy it, but I don't have to have it. And what I did whenever I was going through high school, I was just like you, in a sense of just I didn't have just one set clique. I had several of them. Developed most of my friends in the home school study group or whatever. It's like basically your last names got combined with other people that had a similar last name, and met a few friends through that, and then ended up meeting my best friend from high school, the only one I still kind of associate or even kind of talk to. I have a couple other ones I just touch base with them, happy birthday or Merry Christmas, those type of situations. But one in particular we try to stay in touch with quite a bit, and just having that relationship really helped out. But as a bad association, I did hang out with quite a few folks that loved to party. Every single weekend they were out and they wanted me to come because I always have like a good time, and it got to a point to where they started getting into heavier drugs. At that point, all I had was alcohol. That's like that was my go-to. And then tried pot once, got high, got paranoid, never did it again until I met my wife. Not to throw her under the bus, but sex is better. So just saying. Not saying it wasn't good in the beginning, but I have to bring that part up. That's the reason why we do it now. So shut up. You just did. But sorry. But anyway, so I saw my friends going into taking heavier drugs, and I saw to myself that that's not the association I wanted to be a part of, because you're guilty by association. You just, with the wrong crowd, have a bag of pot or a bag of whatever in the car, and you get pulled over, you all are going to jail, or going to some severe, punishment. So I knew that early on because I had family that was in, police and all that kind of stuff. Or actually, one of the deacons of the church was a police officer, and they would tell me that because I did get in trouble. I would do some stupid, crazy stuff from time to time, like throwing rocks at signs out the window of the moving bus, stupid shit that kids do. And I remember that's kind of where I started turning some of those things, those decisions that I was making just for a laugh or for someone to say, hey, yeah, he's cool or whatever. That I knew that was going to affect my long-term career or my long-term life, because it suspended me enough to where I failed a grade. And that's kind of opened my eyes. I was like, okay, I don't need to do this shit anymore. Because we went on a DC trip. I don't know, seniors usually do that or whatever. And this guy brought some liquor in a Gatorade bottle that was food color in it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, all right, so are you going to share any of that? And he's like, no. And then finally I got a sip. And then somebody who was with us in the same room ratted us all out when we got back. And
bastards.
yeah, I got in trouble. So anyway, I admitted to it because I was Christian. I wasn't supposed to lie, you know. And my stepdad picked me up and he was like, dude, why the hell did you admit to it? I would have fought for you. And
they got a shitty inner circle. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
And
it's their fault.
And it was. I mean, I did partake. They didn't force it down my throat. So, so there's some decisions. I think all of us have some type of, you know, past or whatnot. Perspective wise, man, I was with my stepdad. We went racing all the time. He was in jet skis when I was in summer. We would see all over the place, anywhere they had a beach or a lake or whatever. We were there, racing jet skis and stuff like that. So my childhood was a little different than most people, where they just stayed behind closed doors and played video games. And I did that too, but just I had a more of an adventurous type of life. I got into motocross and things of that sort. So my sphere of influence never really changed much. I only had like about, you know, maybe 10 group of guys that I would hang out with, or girls or whatever, and their girlfriends and stuff. And it kind of just grew. But once I got out of high school, Jason is his name. He's in Chattanooga. He's the only guy that I really consider a really, really close dear friend, a brother, if you will, outside of this relationship. And I kept upgrading, and I felt like a lot of my friends were good people. And then when we met Cam, we got in business, and they just didn't have the ambition that I had. I have always, same thing with you. I was like, man, I worked hard and at everything that I did up to that point and even beyond. And to me, you know, the association factor was that these guys wanted a mediocre life. And I don't mean to judge them. They can do whatever they want to do. It's just, I just knew that they were not going to go further than what they decided to go with. And I wanted more in life. And that's fine. If you want more out of life, or you just want to stay stagnant and just stay in your career and be comfy, then that's great too. You do you. But for me, that's when I realized that what affected me the most was not only did they not join me, but they also bashed me for wanting to do more. And that's when it really clicked for me. It was like, oh, I called you a friend, but a true friend would never say your dreams are stupid, you shouldn't chase after them.
But let's be honest, those guys didn't hate you for who you were. They hated you because of who they weren't.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's what other people don't realize either.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Is I soon to come to find out that these guys weren't really my friends. They just wanted to go party. And then that could fill anybody. Anybody could fill that seat. You know, there's a dime a dozen, you know? So a lot of those friends changed over time, and then we started developing relationships with genuine people who wanted to do something like JP and O and Cam and other people outside of this table that, you know, now we associate with. If you're not doing life with me, I'm not really doing life with you. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how it rolls.
I want to add something too on that, and thank you for sharing that as well, because I mean, we talked about this beforehand. Everybody's is different. Everybody's story is different, but I think I assume that most everybody goes through that time of transition. Like, do I want to be more intentional about my relationships? I shouldn't say everybody does. Everybody that wants to achieve anything, great or semi-great or whatever, they just want to do more than average, has to go through that transition, I would imagine. But for clarity for me, I think the one blessing that I did have, maybe a little different, I wasn't very clear about, is I had a core group of friends that we partied like rock stars, and we really were brothers. We were just brothers that partied like rock stars and didn't really chase after accomplishing much else other than a reputation. Those guys, I had to separate myself from, not necessarily because of them, but because of me. And we talked about drinking. We drink now.
Yeah.
You know, we enjoy ourselves now. We go out and have a good time now. Now it's something I do on my terms and I control it. It's not something that controls my life. You know, so the difference is it doesn't get in the way of the things I'm achieving for myself or my family or businesses or anything like that. So I want to go back because some of those guys listen to us. And for clarity, there's a handful, maybe a couple handfuls of guys that we don't see each other anymore. We don't really talk to each other. We keep up with each other on social a little bit. But right now, there's 4 or 5 of them that I could call right now and they'd be here tomorrow. No doubt about it. And I would be there for them. And I'm grateful for that. And like beyond belief, I'm grateful for that I've had that twice in my life that I've had those groups of people twice in my life. This group I just had to remove myself from because of the nature of the association of what we were doing. But then there was those ancillaries that were really just the other people at the bar that became friends. And that was really, man, there's a lot of them that show up and it's like quicksand. Lord have mercy. You know, you think you're going to have a quiet night. The next thing you know, you're rolling and standing in the DJ booth.
3 o'clock in the morning
in Panama City.
Yeah.
And that's not where you were when you woke up that day. Not even that state. So so it's there's not all bad. I mean, so I guess the reason I wanted to make sure I say that is because I think some people are going to go, well, I don't know if I want to lose that relationship. You don't have to lose it forever. You might just need to step away from it for a minute. Just like with alcohol, if you really enjoy beer or enjoy wine, you don't necessarily have to lose it forever. Just make sure that you're running it, it's not running you.
Right.
You know,
that's huge.
Yep. And that's one of the big indicators, especially with stuff like that, because, you know, your association tends to bring around, other influences in your life and stuff like that. Right. So, I mean, if you're around a bad influence and all they do is, smoke pot, drink alcohol and all these different things, you're going to be, I mean, guilty by association probably wouldn't be the right term there, but you're going to be more apt to do that kind of stuff, so
because we always want to fit in.
All right. Well, and if it's there, I mean, just as human nature, if it's there, then you're going to want to do it. But when you can tell, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with having drinks and stuff, because I'm going to have drinks, but I am mentally mature enough that I don't plan my schedule around having drinks. That's not what I do. And I used to do that.
Oh,
we're going to go get drunk tonight.
And not even have drinks. We're going to get drunk. I'm going to get sloshed.
Yeah, man.
Why that was ever the thing you want to do, I'll never understand. Why do you want to get so out of your mind that it's miserable?
Dude, I just like the tipsy. And my friends would drink so much that they would literally be hurling and then drink some more. I had a friend literally woke up out of a stupor, hurled a spiral of a hurl, and then said, "Give me another beer."
It's a great
and drank another big. Oh man, it was crazy.
I think they call that projectile vomiting.
Yeah, it was projectile.
And some people have some really deep-seated issues that they truly are trying to
get rid of,
to snuff out, and they think that's how it's going to work. And again, if that's you and you're listening, it ain't going to work.
No,
you need to talk to somebody about that if that's what you're trying to do. But to get back on track with the inner circle, the other side of that is wanting to fit in is if you're hanging out with people that are stretching you in a positive way, you want to fit in there too. Absolutely. I mean, you want to, I know for me, what it was like, man, I was hanging around people that were like reading a book every 2 weeks. I was like, I hadn't thought about that ever,
right.
Ever.
You do that while you're drinking?
Exactly. At the bar, how do you see when you
Well, here's a perspective thing. And I had to learn this because I was getting to a point when with people hanging out and, you're drinking so much. Dude, I would drink maybe 2 or 3 beers, get a little bit of buzz, maybe on my 4th one, and then I would keep that cup halfway full the whole time. And everybody thinks that I'm drinking, or I'd keep a beer on me the entire time, and everybody thinks I'm drinking, so I didn't have to get sloshed as bad as they would, because dude, they'll just keep throwing them at
Is that what you do with books now? You just carry one around so we think you're reading?
Absolutely.
Burn.
If somebody didn't listen to 2 episodes before, you might know what that reference was.
Just messing with you.
But no, yeah. So I had to do that. So tip for you guys out there, do that, but don't get any tipsy and just watch what everybody else does and watch how bad they get. And then you go, do you really want to be portrayed that way? If somebody else came in that you were highly respected, came to you at that moment, would you want them to see you?
Yeah. So I think, and that's a good point though. I mean, when you think about it in terms of that, if you ever have the willpower to sit back and watch people indulge on stuff, and that can go for anything, man. Your problem might not be alcohol or marijuana; it might be food.
Oh, right.
You might be 300 pounds and stuff your face all day long and stuff like that. And for somebody, like you sit back and watch somebody do that. Like from the outsider's perspective, especially if like your association is very healthy, like if you're around people that are running all the time, that are exercising and stuff, and you look at that and you just go, how can you do that? Like you are 400 pounds and you're stuffing your face right now with Burger King and a king size fry, and you're trying to fool yourself with a Diet Coke. Like,
right, exactly.
It's not working.
Exactly.
Like, why are you doing that? But
they're half the fat. They eat the whole box.
It's no sugar.
Yeah.
But that brings up a good point, though, is like that inner circle we talked about previously is like not everybody in that inner circle is probably an expert or a great example in every area. So you might have the guy that's really a health nut that challenges you and stretches you to eat right and to exercise properly and consistently. You might have the other guy that's a very strong spiritual life that, I mean, maybe he's healthy, maybe he's not, but man, when it comes to like a spiritual side of things, that's the guy, you know? And so, or you might have the person that, you know, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you know, these other guys might just be job guys and that's fine, but you might have one guy in your inner circle that's like a strong entrepreneur that's just crushing it. And then that's where you get that from. So that's the importance of the inner circle, is not to just have an inner circle, but a diverse inner circle, you know,
Absolutely.
because I think the downs of us, and again, speaking from my own perspective, the negative side of the bad well, one of the many negative sides of the bad association was that pretty much everybody was the same. I mean, like, they weren't, but what we were doing was the same. Like I guess what I should say is what I was getting from them was the same, which was just entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, or filler, you know, like
it's
just
good to have fun
for sure. And
in moderation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think when you start being more intentional about that inner circle, it's like, I don't want to gain the same thing from everybody in my inner circle.
Correct.
I want to get, like, everybody's not going to be an expert in everything. So, like, even here, I mean, like, think about, like, everybody has a different strong suit, and I think that's why it works so well.
Yeah, apparently I'm the fat preacher that doesn't like to work out and
or read.
barely read.
Well, it's true. So,
but you're happy all the time.
I am a happy fat ass.
No, but in that situation, you need somebody like me to bust your chops and go, where were you in the gym for the past month? Well, I didn't have time. Did you not have time, or are you just making that up? Well, shit, I just didn't go. And sometimes you need to hear that. Sometimes the truth needs to come out, you know, and there's different aspects of where I'm at that you guys hold me accountable for, you know, and that's.
Put a shirt on.
It's important.
What's
yeah.
wrong? You didn't have a shirt at your house?
Sensitive nipples, my ass. Put a shirt on. So the thing about it is the association that you need to be pointed towards should be guys that give you opportunities rather than like handouts. Like if the people that you're around are handing you a beer all the time and stuff like that and trying to make things easier all the time, then you're probably not around the right association. That's where people get things messed up, and that's why mental maturity is important when you start picking your inner circle. But I think that most people, especially men, I'm speaking to men right now, but you move from a state of everything's easy, everything's fluid, I don't have a ton of responsibilities coming through high school and stuff like that. We're just going to have fun, and I'm around the guys that are having fun and stuff. And then I move into now all of a sudden I got responsibilities. Now I got to start making some serious choices about things. You know, like, hold on, wait, can I continue to go on this route, or am I going to have to make some changes? And that loneliness period, which Cameron was alluding to a minute ago, I believe, in just my belief, that that's God's way of saying, hey, there's a certain thing called law of attraction. There's a really good association out there, but you have to put your oxygen mask on first.
Yep.
This is your time to reflect and become a better person, and then that association will make itself available to you.
Going from dependent to independent.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's right. And then you become interdependent in that. You start to understand that not only can I associate with people that are, I don't want to say better than me, but farther along than I am, but then I start to realize how to leverage people like that, not in a negative sense, but in a positive sense, because we're going to do more together. I mean, same thing with what we're doing right here as men. You know, that's the goal, is to create a stronger association, but you got to understand that loneliness period in between there, like, don't get depressed about that. Don't get down about that. That's your opportunity to become a better human being. When guys keep going into that ever just spiraling pit of dating girls that are shitty girls, and they blame it on, oh, I can't find a good girl. Well, maybe you haven't become a good guy yet.
100%.
Maybe you shouldn't pick up girls in the bar. I mean, if
only there, maybe just tries other places too.
Yeah, if it hasn't worked for the past 10, and I'm not saying there's not good girls in the bar, but what I'm saying is your chances are probably a lot higher if you meet a girl in the library.
I made that comment to my mom one time when I was in my mid-20s, and I was kind of like,
I got it.
Wanted to have a relationship, whatever. And my mom and I talk about this stuff very openly, and I was like, I don't know, I want to meet the right person, but I don't think I don't necessarily want to meet a girl at the bar, but all I do is hang out at the bar. And She's like, well, do you think there's not good girls at the bar? I was like, I don't know. I just don't know if I can meet a good girl at the bar. And she's like, well, were you at the bar? I was like, it's a good point. That's a good point.
Not this me.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good point. But it's true, man. Like, and again, like, there's great people there too. But like, what are you attracting? Are you attracting the great one or just the barfly?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's where there's a certain level of growth that you need to understand. If you walk up to somebody and you're asking for mentorship, because I know we've spoken in the past about seeking out mentorship, finding people that you can have hold you accountable, but also give you advice and guidance in life, and you show up hungover, they will not give you the time of day. If you show up hungover, it tells them everything they need to know about how serious you are about moving to the next level. So there is a certain level in there where you're going to have to start, or a time period in your life where you're going to have to start going, okay, all right, I got to get my shit together. And I have talked to tons of guys, especially men, let me rephrase that, men now that listen to our podcast that have told me their stories that are like, dude, when you guys talked about grit and grind, like that was a big one for a lot of guys. If you haven't heard that, go back and listen to it. It's like episode... It's grit and grind.
Find it.
So it's a good episode.
Keep scrolling down.
Just keep going. So, but a lot of it came into that. That was a period of time for them where that transition happened. I went from like, I'm just going to party, have a good time and stuff like that, to I got to make some changes, to holy shit, this sucks, to I feel like I'm lower than I was before. But that was the reason that people chase a high, right? You go up and then you go lower than you were before you got high, you know?
And you know, I talk about triggers a lot recently. I feel like I've finally been able to put some terminology on things that I've done in my mind in the past. But for those of you that are going through that loneliness period for however long it is, you don't know how long it's going to be, honestly, but it's going to be a period. It's going to be a season of life where if you're pulling out of negative association and moving towards a strong inner circle, then during that time where you feel like you're at your lowest point, let that just be a trigger. Let it be a trigger for you, just as if we were talking about working out in the previous episode, I think it was, where it's, you know, when your physical mind is gone, it's spent, it's exhausted. Let that be a trigger that you have a deeper level, like, and that you just need to oh my gosh, what's the word? You need to grip in a little harder. You need to just like dig in. Thank you. I don't know why I was going blank. It was probably the ecstasy I did years ago.
It's one of those little holes.
It is. It's like the little guy up there with the jackhammer we used to always talk about. But it's a true story. But yeah, but dig in. Like that's the way that I did it. It was like, you know, it's one of those times you go, there's not many people, there's not a high percentage of people that are willing to go through it. There's just not. There's not a high percentage of people that are willing to go through it. So let that be your trigger to dig in and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be on the positive percent.
Yeah, for sure. So how much of your, was it a transition because it was like one of those things where it was like a realization that I'm going down the wrong path, I got to make a change? Or was it a realization that was like, I have goals in my life and it's not aligning? Did you align your new association with your goals and dreams that you have for your life?
Yes, I did align my new friends and circle with the goals and dreams of my life. That was funny because when you and I connected, no one wanted to do what I did at that point on where I wanted to go. I thought everybody would want to. However, I thought incorrectly. And it wasn't against the vehicle that I was in. It was just more or less they just didn't see it the way I saw it. And at that point, toward the end of that cycle, there was no one with me. And it was a very lonely situation. It was like, am I making the right decision? And the cool thing is, I just didn't want I didn't want to look at some of the other folks that I did say I'm going to do this and go, oh, you already quit because nobody said that you wanted to do it. And then I turned around and dug in a little deeper and made a couple connections and a couple more and more and more that were just totally not in my original sphere of influence. And you talking about stretching you, that right there will stretch you big time. You think the people that you're with, they're not going to be with me or whatever. And what am I going to do? Dude, reach out and shake a hand. You never know what stranger you might meet today that will change your life tomorrow.
It's true. That's true. For me, it was, and again, this is just my story. So people struggle with different things. Mine was drugs and alcohol and partying and things like that. I just got sick. I got absolutely sick to my, not physically, but I was so frustrated with myself every morning when I woke up feeling like shit. And it wasn't even that I cared so much about the substance abuse the night before or any of that kind. It was, I literally would get pissed at myself about the time I wasted and about how unproductive I was and how I was really the cream of the crap. You know, I was the top dog in my association because I was actually still wanting to do things. You know, I was the general manager of a restaurant. I had opened 4 restaurants at that point. I was only 25 years old. Like, I used to tell the story, like, from the outside looking in, some people would have been like, damn, Cameron's doing pretty good. Like, he's really accomplishing some things. I didn't feel like that at all. Yeah. I felt like I was stuck in a rut like you wouldn't believe. And I had a title and I had, you know, some recognition for that stuff and yada, yada, yada. But every morning I woke up and I knew I was in a rut. And it pissed me off like you wouldn't believe. Until one day I finally just got pissed enough where I was like, you're doing it to yourself. And that's ultimately what it came down to, is extreme ownership. It ultimately came down to accountability and go, it's nobody else's fault if you stay in this position in life where you are other than yours. And if you want to move on, you gotta pull out of this and go seek something else. And that's what it took. And it wasn't that I knew what that was going to look like or who they were going to be. It was just a decision to have a different vision. So.
Yep. And separating yourself from that is important, you know, and you got to stop caring about what the wrong people think about you. Some people just get stuck in that. Like Wilson, you alluded to it, you know, your friends were like almost bashing you about moving on from the situation and stuff like that. You gotta stop caring about what the wrong people think and get the right association in your life. And what that means is your circle will shrink. If your circle has not shrunk, then you probably haven't met, you know, the right association yet. Because it will shrink. That's not saying that you shun people. I still talk to people, and I still, you know, love people as friends and stuff that I've had, you know, for a long time. But it doesn't mean that I spend the 80% of my time with them. You know, so I think that aspect of things is important to realize that your circle is going to shrink. There is going to be a time of feeling that you're lonely, but long term, your life will become way better.
And the other, to speak to that, piggyback on it, the other thing I wanted was a family. Like, I wanted to meet the right girl, and I wanted to be married, and I wanted to have kids. And I knew for a fact, like, even if I got married and even I had kids, it ain't going to work living the way I'm living. Like, it's just like hanging out with the people I hang out with is not going to work. And that was the other thing that would just frustrate me. I just knew it wasn't happening because I had not become who I needed to be yet.
Right. And that's where, and that's, you know, we're gonna get into wrapping things up and stuff, because I think ultimately it painted a pretty good picture for a lot of people. It doesn't matter where you're at. I mean, you could be absolute rock bottom right now, seem like nothing's going right for you, and you can start working on yourself. Your mind is a really powerful tool that you have that a lot of people let dust settle on and stuff instead of utilizing it. And that's what I would suggest big time. You start working on yourself. If you're in one of those situations, you start working on yourself. If you're not in one of those situations, don't get complacent. Maybe reach a hand down and help one of those people up. You know, find somebody who needs that proper association and stuff. So, you guys got anything else you guys want to put in on this? I really appreciate you guys sharing your stories. I mean, I really do. I think it's cool. I think it's really impactful to a lot of people that are listening. That's why we're here. The whole reason that we started Shepherds of Men was for that reason right there. I mean, it was to tell people, like, for one, as a man, it was to slap the shit out of you and go, there's no excuse for you to do anything less than what you're responsible under God to do in this country as a citizen. You have a responsibility, and we believe that. There's no excuses. I don't care you know, what excuse you can come up with. There is no excuse. You have a responsibility as an individual in this country and under God, in my opinion, to become the man that you were intended to be, because I believe that we were all designed for greatness, but we have been programmed to fail. You know, somebody's constantly putting something into your head about failing. So to be honest with you guys, we're going to wrap things up. Just make sure that you understand that the tough times will make you better unless you allow them to make you bitter. So you don't allow your tough times to make you bitter about things and stuff like that. The tough times were put there to make you stronger, and they ultimately will if you allow them to make you stronger and you take it as an opportunity to get better. And just always tell yourself, man, the next time you see me, I'm going to be a different person. That's one of the things that I've always prided myself on, is if I don't want to be in the same position that I'm in today, tomorrow, in a positive perspective, I want to get better every single day in some way, form, or fashion. It may not be a big move, but in 20 years, I'm not the same guy. You know, like we were talking about before, you were in that bar and you're a gem in that bar, but the guy that you are today is not the guy that sat in that bar.
Right.
You know, and that's the big thing. And a lot of that has to do with the association that's around you because they push you. And there's that draw, you know, it's not a draw to go get hammered drunk and be out until 3:00 in the morning and then wake up at 11 and, you know, the next day and go, what the hell happened last night? It's the draw to go, oh, I got to get better today. Or these guys are going to leave me. They create that pull. So the guys that create that vacuum create that pull is really important. So, you know, I think there's a lot of people that needed to hear this. If you're in that lonely period and stuff, man, just keep going. It's like the, what's the old song? If you're going through hell, just keep going.
Yeah, I always heard if you're going through shit.
Just keip going.
Don't open your mouth.
Yeah, just keep swimming, baby. Just keep swimming.
Was it Dory?
Yeah.
As Dory would say, just keep swimming.
Wait, what is it, Dory?
Yeah. Is it Dory? Yeah, Dory. Wait, what?
Bad joke.
Why am I wet?
Exactly.
Why am I wet?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, to be honest with you, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, man. And if you're looking for an association that is better than what you have currently, and you don't have something available to you, just have enough discipline and dedication to listen to audios, read books, do something, but separate yourself from the toxic environment that you may be in now. And if you're looking for better association and stuff like that, man, like as always, as we say, you know, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. We can always hook you up with relationships and things of that nature.
I want to say this because it's been bugging me in my brain while we're wrapping up here, and I'm trying to decide if I should interrupt or not. But you just said reach out to us, and it's on my heart. For those listening, what you have at this table right here are three guys that are willing to be 100% transparent with where we were, where we are, and where we're going. We believe that we have a high understanding of what it looks like to be a successful man, but we're also very candid about our mistakes and the things that we've done wrong in the past. And I don't think there's enough of that out there. And I know one thing for me that I've been very convicted about, because for years, Chris said this earlier, Wilson said this earlier, like I would have never known all these things about you. But it's because I didn't want anybody to know, because I thought it would tarnish a reputation or tarnish, you know, credibility or whatever. And now I believe totally differently. I believe it's the exact opposite. I believe the fact that the more of that stuff we share, the more credibility there is, and the more we can actually help somebody. And I'm saying all that to say, if you know of a group of people or any environment where it would be helpful for us to be there and maybe speak on those things to a group or to whatever it is, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there because it's on my heart and I feel pushed to say it. Man, reach out to us and let's talk about that. Let's see, because I don't believe that there's a lot of resources out there where people are willing to go, I'll stand in front of you and be completely candid about how big of a fuck up I was and how much I'm not now.
Yep.
Just so you can know that you don't have to be forever.
Right.
And I'm telling you, for me personally, when I got that new inner circle and I heard that stuff, it was more powerful than anything else when I heard that the guy that I wanted to be like had just been like me a few years ago.
Yep.
That did more for me than anything on earth, because I thought, you know, well, there's no way, because he probably didn't have to deal with all this stuff.
Yep.
And it's just not true. And I'm telling you, lives will be saved
Yep.
if they just understand that everybody goes through crap. You just got to keep going. Like
That's
what
right.
you just said.
No,
So-
it's a great point. And that's one of the biggest problems in today with people that are trying, or I don't know if they're trying, but people that are putting this fake facade on that they're doing what we're doing, but instead they rent Lamborghinis, hire girls to come over and hang out and stuff, and they paint this picture of this, you know, whatever kind of lifestyle it is and stuff, and they lie to you about it.
Yep.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Shit's not easy.
No,
It's not easy.
Hell to the no.
It's worth it though.
Yep.
It's worth it though. If you're willing to put in the time, dedication, and effort, it's worth it. You know, so with that being said, I don't want to drag on any longer with it and stuff, but you know, you guys feel free to reach out. You guys go ahead and go to YouTube right now.
That was your cue.
Yep. Go to YouTube. hit subscribe.
We'll wait.
And then hit the alarm button. Like it, leave us some reviews on Apple and stuff like that. We really appreciate you guys listening, man. It's an honor and a pleasure for us to do this, and we feel that we were called to do this. As Cameron said, there's a lot of things going on in the works and stuff. You guys will probably have some opportunities soon to be a part of us speaking live. We're really excited about that. We've got some things in the works that will be coming out soon. This thing's really going to take off, and understand that our heart is where it needs to be with this. We believe in men in this country, but we believe that men are really the thermostat, and they should be. But that takes a lot of effort, and that takes some grit. So just remember, it's going to take some thick skin, and if you got thin skin, you probably suck your thumb. So,
because you can taste the meat because your skin's so thin.
I heard that from
the bone marrow.
I heard that from a guy that I got a lot of respect for. But we love you guys. We really do. We appreciate you guys tuning in. You've been part of the movement.